Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the May 31st, 2017 edition of The Breast There Is, The Breast There Was, and The Breast There Ever Will Be Wrestling Podcast. As always, I am your host, Mikey B, and as I've done in recent weeks and will continue to do from now on, I will only be covering important events which happen each week in the WWE, which move the story forward. Having said that, let's begin with Monday Night Raw, which is building towards their upcoming pay-per-view show this weekend, Extreme Rules. As I said last month, the week leading up to any pay-per-view show is usually quite dull, with many tag team matches and other promos by the wrestlers addressing their upcoming matches. Everything is pretty safe, with hardly any development as things are already set up for the show from weeks prior. This is something the WWE could change if it wanted to by announcing more matches on the final week of a pay-per-view show to keep it interesting. The only match added this week was a meaningless mixed tag team match, which will have Rich Swann and Sasha Banks face Noam Dar and Alicia Fox. Besides Sasha Banks, these other competitors have only rarely been seen in any pay-per-views this year, making this match all the less worthwhile. One interesting moment on Raw, which appears to be a huge development, occurred when Kurt Angle was speaking to Corey Graves about the potential attacker of Enzo Amore last week, with Graves sharing some confidential information with him. It is difficult to say as many details weren't brought to light, but it does appear that this is pertaining to the Enzo situation. It could, however, be about something else altogether. Big Cass is furious and confronted each man and demanded action. The tag team, The Revival, made their first appearance in 6 weeks, and it was soon mentioned that they could be the culprits who attacked Amore, as they were videotaped in attendance on Raw the previous week, despite not being in action last week. We'll see what happens in the coming weeks with this situation. One thing I can say for sure is that the team of Enzo and Big Cass won't stay together forever. Wrestling fans know that Vince loves his large wrestlers, and Big Cass fits in nicely in this category. It would be a shame for them to split it before they win the tag team championships, as they should have already won at some point in this past year. I do smell a heel turn coming soon, possibly with Big Cass himself or someone on his side doing the damage on Enzo. I could be completely off, but I wouldn't be surprised to see this either. A forgettable moment on the show came when Alexa Bliss was conducting a presentation of Bayley, This Is Your Life. You could hear the crowd chanting "boring" many times over. This segment for those fans who weren't tuning in during the Attitude Era was done before, with the first time being in 1999 when Mick Foley, who was Mankind at the time, did The Rock, This Is Your Life. This was one of the highest ratings moments ever on Raw for the WWE, as the two made the whole segment very funny. It was also the hardest that I've ever heard Jerry the King Lawler laugh on all of his broadcasts. You can certainly bet that there was not a single person in that audience chanting, "This is boring." If you haven't seen this, I urge you to Google it and check it out and see what a different world that WWE was compared to this one. The energy was pretty much always electric no matter what city they were in, and this was simply because the show was that much better then, giving people a reason to cheer loudly and continuously. Anyways, back to the show. Alexa Bliss's segment completely flopped, which possibly even damaged their feud. I wouldn't be surprised if this feud is over for a while after this weekend. Besides these moments, the main event on Raw featured 2 of the 5 men in the main event of this weekend's pay-per-view Extreme Rules. The 2 combatants were Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns. Reigns won this cleanly, which I believe confirmed to the WWE Universe where these 2 lie in the pecking order, or at least who ranks above who. Moving on to Smackdown Live, this show is in the process of building their next pay-per-view show, which will also be in June, which is the Money in the Bank show. I would be surprised if many people are excited for 2 pay-per-views in the same month. It really loses the importance of these events when there are so many. Even for someone like myself who covers this programming, there are even times when I'm like, really? Already this weekend? In my estimation, besides the expected tag matches featuring competitors and the top matches on the upcoming pay-per-view show, there were only 2 things worth noting on this broadcast. The first one occurred during a promo by the Usos, who were discussing their dominance, when they were interrupted by the returning tag team, The New Day. The New Day were out of action for the last several months, but their return definitely improves the tag team division on SmackDown. I believe if the WWE combined the best tag teams of both shows, then the division would be very impressive. Instead, there are only a maximum of 4 good teams on either show, which dampens the prospects of having many great feuds happening. Besides the return of the New Day, the other interesting moment occurred during the fatal 5-way matchup which is, by the way, a style of match that the WWE seems to love currently, which had Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch, Carmella, Natalya, and Tamina battling for the number one contender spot for the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. During the course of the match, which had all 5 women at one point ending up on the floor ringside, the commissioner of SmackDown Live, Shane McMahon, came down to the ring announcing that these 5 women would compete in the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match at the pay-per-view. While this is neat because it's never happened before, it also runs the risk of being boring because there is another of the same match on the same night. It reminds me of last year's pay-per-view Hell in a Cell when there were 3 Hell in a Cell matches on the same night. In the Attitude Era, there was maybe only 1 or 2 of these kinds of matches a year at the culmination of a great feud. So the WWE runs the risk of damaging this once innovative match concept by simply overdoing it. Alright everyone, that was all of the important news for this week in the WWE, and be sure to tune in to my podcast this weekend as I will be conducting a show featuring my predictions for this weekend's Raw exclusive show, Extreme Rules. Also, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel below if you liked what you heard. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.